Hey everybody, we're still building out the chassis here before we do any wiring. So what you'll see is I've installed the 8-pin octal tubes. One is for the rectifier, the GZ3, and the other two are for the 5881s, the output tubes. And you'll notice before I installed them I bent out the pins like a crown. And that'll make connecting them much easier. Still haven't done any wiring, obviously. I've got the ground switch in here, which I'm just going to pop in there for now. I may do a DI, which was suggested in one of the comments. I'm not sure yet. And then I'm installing these 9-pin mini tubes. And one thing I wanted to show you on this, on the schematic, or let's look at the wiring diagram. You'll see on the 12AX7s and the 12AY7, you'll see that pin 4 and 5 are jumped together. And that's part of the filament circuit. So what I've done on these is I've twisted pins 4 and 5, which you can see right here, so that they're facing each other. So when I put the wire through it, it's just simply putting the wire through and then soldering it, instead of trying to loop it and all that stuff. So I've done that before I've installed them, and I've actually bent these pins out as well like a crown. And I'm just going to go ahead and install this last one in here. The other thing I want to show you is the wire I'm going to use is a cloth wire, which is pretty authentic. So the green is going to be for the filament, and it's a solid wire, it's not stranded. So I'll be able to bend and shape these things any way I want. And the yellow is going to be used for the connections off of the turret board right here. So all these wires coming out of here are going to be yellow, and then all of the filament wires are going to be green. So what I hope to accomplish today is get all the potentiometers installed in here, the input jacks and the output jacks. And the output jacks on these things are RCA type connections right here. So I'm gonna get all that installed right here in the back. Right, there's 4 8-ohm speakers in parallel, gives you 2 ohms, which is what my output transformer is. So again, today's going to be more about getting the hardware installed. So let me continue that, and I'll come back and give you an update. All right, so I've got all the input jacks loosely installed, all the potentiometers. Of course, they're the correct values. If you look at the diagram here, you'll see that the volumes are 1 meg, treble is 250K, bass is 1 meg, the middle is 25K, and the presence is 5K. So I have all of those correctly installed here. So those are in. I've got the output jacks that I mentioned, the RCAs installed. Okay. So theoretically we have all the hardware in place. The only thing I haven't done is the power cord yet, and that goes right here. So I'm going to take care of that. Before I started populating this stuff, I actually took everything out. If you remember my first video, I had installed the switches and everything. I took them out and I made a template. Now let me show you why I did that. I'll be right back. So if you look at this cabinet, the actual amp has to mount down in here, and there's got to be a hole drilled somewhere here to hold it in. So what I did is I made an exact template of the front cover, which is right here, and you'll see that basically I just have to measure the center. This is 20 inches from top to side there. So I'm going to measure the center and then center this template and just drill 2 holes right through the case in these holes somewhere where you see the yellow. That's where they're going to be measured and drilled. And that's going to be able to pass a bolt through and then attach underneath in the chassis that I showed you. I also want to show you one of the speakers. So I've got my speaker here, and this is one of the Jensen speakers that were used in this amp. It's a Jensen Special. It's the exact speaker that was used in the original amp. And it's a model, let's see, it's a model P10R, and this is an 8-ohm speaker, and you'll see it's got the Fender date code that people look for, and this is exactly what was used in this amp. So I've got 4 of these. I bought these on Veterans Day, and I got a 30% off special, so I actually got 4 speakers 30% off, so this was a really good deal. And the last thing I want to show you on the labels, so here's the soy sauce label, right, and doesn't smell anymore, so that's good. And then I found some old paper and I printed it again, and this looks old, but it doesn't look really old. So I think I'm going to go with the soy sauce paper, and that gets mounted right inside here. And I'll use some contact cement, and it gets mounted right there. So that's where we are. So my next step is going to be to start to do the filament wiring, and I'll come back when I have an update on that. Alright folks, I'm going to test this thing out and see if this rectifier tube works. I've got that wired all in correctly. So looking at the schematic, I've got the high power leads going to 4 and 6, and I have the 5-volt lines going to 2 and 8, and then I have a wire that comes off pin number 8, and right here goes up to the standby switch, and then I have a 0.47 cap going to ground. I've got my AC switch wired in, I have my fuse wired in, and I have my power cord wired in. So let's take a look at that real quick. So this is the ground switch. There's nothing there. Obviously it's just blank right now. There's my fuse. All right, one side goes to the power, one side goes to the power switch. Right there is my on-off switch. Right there. You can see that's connected. And then I have one side of the standby switch connected. The other side, which is currently blank, goes over to the circuit board. And looking at the diagram, it comes over here and connects to one of the wires that come out of the cap. And I haven't gotten the cap built out yet. Here's the 0.47 cap that goes to ground from the standby switch. And then I have my wires going to the indicator light, but I don't have any wires coming off of here going to the other tubes filaments. So the only filament that I've got connected is the 5-volt one. So next step is going to be for me to wire this and connect all of the filament wires here, not here, and to these connections. I'm going to end the video here after I do this test, just to make sure that the rectifier tube is working. This green wire you see here is the center tap for the 6.3 volt line. I don't need that because I'm going to use an artificial center tap. That's what the schematic calls for. And you can see right here, there's 200 ohm resistors that come off the pilot light and go to ground. That's an artificial center tap. I'm going to use that. And this wire right here, this red and green, actually comes off the transformer right here. And it goes right here, and you'll see that's a transistor, or a diode I should say, 1N4007. That takes the place of a selenium rectifier that was originally in these amps. So this wire is connected to nothing at the moment. We're going to leave that standing up. The center tap we're going to leave over here, and there's Bella the cat. Say hi, Bella. There you go. Alright, let's power this thing up and see what we get. Bring it up on the Variac real slow. Alright, here we go. Fire in the hole. Go up to 60. I've got an indicator light. That's a good sign. And I've got some filaments glowing. That's great. So, so I know that I have the rectifier connected correctly. I've got that up to 115, and we're holding good. There's really not much happening here. All right, let's power this down. Okay, a couple of other notable items. This orange wire that comes out to ground right there, that's a shield tap, they call it. And the transformer has a copper shield around it that goes off to ground. If it's a static shield, I guess is what they call it. And then the red and yellow wire is the center tap for the high power that goes to ground. And then of course I've got the green wire from the power cord coming in, going to a ground lug right there. And the other end of that cap, that orange drop, goes there as well. So that's where I am today. I'll continue along with the filament wiring, and that'll be in the next video. Hope everybody has a really good Thanksgiving. This is Ron.